Hey. It is your girl, B. Jules, the founder and CEO behind Words That Speak. And it is our time on Saturday morning for our podcast, Words That Speak with B. Jules. So, I wanted to jump right in. I was having some connection issues trying to get on. So I thank everyone who is joining live and who will be watching the recording later on. So I have 2 prior episodes. The first one introduces who I am, and the second one talked about how it was like 5 tips on how I started to find God. Because in the first episode, I spoke about how God found me, and the second one, I talked about how I found God. So on today's episode, I got my notes. I want to talk about breaking old patterns and walking into new freedom with God. So when you start walking with God, when you start wanting a relationship with Him, He is going to reveal to you a lot of things about you and about environments that you are in that are not healthy, that are not of Him. And so for me, what is it? What do I want to say? It's not a question, but it was more like a statement. That's what it is. A statement that God was telling me was that what I called normal, He called dysfunctional. Let me say that again. So what I called normal, He called dysfunctional. And so I really had to sit back, and it got all the way down to like my music, what I was watching, the people I was around, where was I going, where was I spending, who and where was I spending time with. So all of these things that I felt were normal, they were not. So I want to give you 5 tips on this episode of how you can start breaking away from old patterns. Now, this is not an overnight success. This is not just a magic potion. This takes work. And a lot of us live in this mindset that things have to come fast, or we say one thing, but then a couple days later, we're right back to what we were doing or where we started. And really that comes down to discipline and self-control, which self-control is part of the fruits of the Spirit of God. So we as believers can no longer use that as, well, that's just who I am, or this is just me, or I don't have self-control. No, you do. You just have to build it up. So building it up, it takes a while. You have to be disciplined. And I will read you a definition of self-discipline. So self-discipline is the ability to make yourself do what you would do, whether you feel like it or not. So whether you feel like it or not, that's the key. Because, example, I could work out. I don't like working out, but I love that I worked out. I love the way I feel after I work out, but I don't like the way I feel when I am working out. But there's a benefit behind it. There was a time where, last year, matter of fact, where I gave up drinking alcohol. I gave it up for an entire year. Did I enjoy that every moment? No, I didn't. But the result and the breakthroughs and the healing that I got doesn't compare to what I had to let go of. So when your why is big enough, like my why for the drinking was I wanted to know who I really am outside of a substance altering who I'm becoming. Exercising. I want to be physically fit for when I get older. I want to live I want to be strong when I get older. I'm in my last year of my 30s. Like, if I don't start developing something now, I'm not going to be running at 50 if I'm not running at 39. It's just, that's going to be harder to develop that skill. I want to start things now because those are my whys. And when I don't feel like doing it, which comes more often than me feeling like I want to do it, I remember my why. I remember why I said it. Why did I feel it? Why was I committed that one time that I said it? I can't allow, myself to stop now and not commit to what I already committed to. And a lot of us sell ourselves short in this area. We allow what's going to happen tomorrow or next week to detour us off of what we said we were going to do. And so breaking old patterns is going to take a lot of work. It's going to take patience. It's going to take effort. It is going to take everything. Like, I was crying. It was ugly. And there's still patterns I'm working on. But let me tell you, I've had a lot of breakthrough. But it wasn't cute. It was ugly. It was messy. There was a lot of times I failed, but I got myself back up. I never quit. And I continued to do it. I continued to say, I can do this. This is my why. This is why I want to do it. And when you have something you are striving for, that you are putting above your emotions, above what the day's going to bring towards you, you'll be able to do it. And the more no's you tell yourself to something that you're used to telling yourself yes to, the more you're building that person up. The more you're building that woman you want to become, that you have this burning desire inside to see her face, right? To see her evolve. But you have to go through these processes. And if you want to change, then it starts with you. It starts with your inside. And you have to look within, and you have to start building and getting those toxic beliefs, those toxic routines, those toxic patterns rooted out. But then you also have to start planting seeds of your new patterns. So there is freedom with walking with Jesus, okay? And I say his name because a lot of us can say we believe in God, but God, I feel, is a very broad term, and I want to be very specific when it comes to my faith. So walking in freedom with Jesus, there is freedom with him. But you have to believe in the freedom, and you have to want that freedom, because he came to give us an abundant life. The enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy our lives. And so we've got to know the difference of what is happening in our day to day, even second to second, minute to minute. Like, there's a constant battle going on up here for your attention. And so you have to get good at learning. Is this freedom? Like, is this a divine attachment, or is this a demonic attachment? What I'm thinking, what I'm doing. So the 5 tips that I want to give on this podcast is, number 1, recognizing unhealthy patterns, which I sort of mentioned just a bit ago. So the Holy Spirit will bring awareness to behaviors that are not aligned with God's will. So I'll go back to my alcohol example. My flesh didn't see anything wrong with me drinking, okay? And I can't say that I was like to the point where I needed like AAA, but drinking every weekend, drinking for every celebration, drinking during the week because I want to relax. There's a reason to drink almost for anything. And my tolerance was really high. And there was just a lot of things that weren't working out the way they did. the way that I wanted them to. So when I started this relationship with God, I started realizing that I wasn't adapting to letting go of this behavior. And so sometimes God will start to make it not so fun. So I would start having more hangovers than I ever had before. I would start feeling very fatigued the next day. I would not be able to get things done. I would feel groggy. I would feel irritated. Or I wouldn't get the stuff done that I said I was going to get done. There was just all these different things that were happening to me that didn't make it so enjoyable anymore. And so I had done other fasts prior up to the year that I gave it. But they were like increments, like 30 days. I did a 90-day. And then I just felt God, like I wrote it years prior, you need to give it up. And it was like a year. Like I just kept hearing that. And so I had to recognize that it was unhealthy for me. Like even outside of faith, alcohol is a poison. Like it's not, I know we glam it up and we make it look really good and it tastes really good sometimes with certain drinks. And, but at the end of the day, it's a poison that there's no nourishment. There is no nutrition. There is nothing good about alcohol that goes into our bodies. And so outside of the faith, even my health, it wasn't matching up with what I wanted my health to be like. It dries out your skin. It ages you. It disturbs your sleep. You don't really go into your last phase of needing to sleep. It interrupts that cycle. It messes with your liver. You know, I mean, the list goes on and on as far as like health goes. So it was something that I had to let go of. And that was one unhealthy pattern for me that I can give as an example. So the second tip that I will give is learning to trust God's process. So letting go of control and allowing God to lead you through the transformation. I'm still in this one. There are certain things I've been able to do, and there's certain storms that I'm still in that I'm like letting it go, but then I'm wanting it back. And then I'm letting it go, but then I'm wanting it back. But ultimately letting go of control is leaning on God. And if we're honest, God already knows the beginning and the end in the middle. He already knows our entire lives. We only know minute by minute, like second by second. We don't know what the day is going to bring. We can plan things. We can hope for things. We can definitely, make sure we are doing the things we need to get done. But we don't know how the day is going to go. We don't know what next week's going to bring. We don't know what next month's going to bring. We don't know what next year is going to look like. Like, we don't know. But he does. He knows us. And he knows us more than we know ourselves. He formed us in our womb, in our mother's womb, before they even knew who we were. Like, he already named us. He's already chosen us. In Jeremiah 29:11, which is a very famous verse, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, give you hope and a future. So letting go of control can be hard for some of us that are wanting control, like me, but it's a deeper rooted issue for me. That's just a symptom. The cause is the environment that I grew up in as a child. That environment was traumatizing, and so the older I got, I wanted to control everything so that I couldn't feel the pain or the trauma that I went through. But let's be honest, even with me holding on and controlling things, I've still had pain. I've still ended up in some places. I still haven't done my best to keep it from happening. So we have to let go of control and let God do what God does. and stop getting in the way. Okay. So number 3, forgiving yourself and others. Grace plays a major role in your healing. So the Bible, I don't know the verse, but the Bible even talks about if you do not forgive others, God will not forgive you of your sins. And I think one of the worst, the most scariest things that I could think of is when my time comes and I'm face to face with God and he tells me he doesn't even know me. You know, like, I don't want that to happen. And so forgiving people is not an easy one. And even forgiving yourself cannot be easy. But doing things that are not easy give you an abundance of life. And you have to learn how to forgive. You have to learn how to let it go and how to release yourself from that burden, because it's like a prison. And honestly, forgiving others really releases you. It doesn't say it's okay for what they did. It doesn't give them an excuse. It doesn't give them a slap on the wrist, but it releases you. And unforgiving them is not affecting them. It doesn't stop them from still living their life. It affects you. It can make you become a different person. And it can make you become a different person in a toxic way. And so forgiving yourself, that was one that I really struggled with, because I had a lot of shame-based thinking. And so for me, when it comes to guilt, it's like, oh, I made a mistake. But when it comes to shame, you are a mistake. So for me, there was a lot that I believed that I was a mistake. And so forgiving myself, that took time, y'all. That took a lot of tears, a lot of ugly times in my prayer closet, a lot of times in my room, a lot of times in my car, a lot of times just with me. And when I started this journey of forgiving myself, God made ways, and I didn't understand it because he isolated me, and he continues to isolate me right now, because he had to get me out of environments. He had to get me alone. Not that I had a problem with being alone, but what are you doing when you're alone? So for me, I had to learn how to love myself. And that was what my alone time did. I had to love myself because he loves me. I am enough because he is enough. And just working out all of the unforgiveness I had within me from all of my mistakes prior. And it went all the way back to like my childhood, of me not forgiving myself for being able to save my mom. Well, I'm a child. That's not my responsibility. You know, I had to forgive that inner child. I had to forgive that inner teenager. I had to forgive that inner young adult. I even had to forgive myself this year for certain things that I, didn't show up the way I should have. And I believe that the forgiving is a constant journey. This isn't something that you're going to get right away. You forgive them, you forgive yourself, and life is just going to be unicorns and rainbows and sunshine all the time. That's not how it works, but there is a release, there is a healing, there is a breakthrough, and there is something precious about loving yourself and forgiving yourself and being able to know who you are and being able to live out your purpose. Because you won't get there until you know how to forgive who you are. All right. So, point 4, embracing new freedom. Okay. So, knowing what it's like to live in God's freedom and how it changes your daily life. So, you're getting out of your old patterns, right? You are letting go of some things, it's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel really weird. It's going to feel unnatural. So a good example I can say is when you're dating men, right? And you are used to men being like that hardcore guy. You know, he don't really talk sweet to you most. He don't really open doors for you. You know, he's like a thug. You know, he's in the streets, or he's just not very emotional. You know, he doesn't really give you his emotions. Maybe you're more used to rejection from him. You know, you're always striving for his attention. So that type of guy, you know, you are used to dating, right? But then there's this sweet guy that comes, and he tells you how beautiful you are on a daily, and he's just buying you roses. He wants to take you out. He opens doors for you. He's willing to do things for you you haven't had anyone else try to do, and you think it's corny. You think like, ew, like stop it. You are too nice. You are too kind. You are too soft for me, right? I want a man. And so that's a perfect example of how we call that normal to be with someone who does not value us versus someone who values us. I've been that girl. I have let go of a few in my lifespan that were super sweet, that were innocent, that were really into me. And since it was foreign to me to get that, I was just like, you're not for me. Like, you're too much. You're too much. But that's just not normal, okay? I do want somebody who respects me, who loves me, who caters to me, who encourages me, who is, you know, we're a team. So like for me, now I can see the difference. So it's kind of the same with God. So when you start walking with God, like when you start walking with Jesus, it's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel unnatural for certain things because you're not used to living that way. But you have to continue to embrace it and continue to trust in him, continue to let go, and continue to allow him to show you your unhealthy patterns and start replacing them with good patterns, right? The patterns of his will. So, and then my tip 5, encouragement for you guys, my listeners. So, practical steps on how you can do these things. So first, recognizing unhealthy patterns, write them down. Get a journal. Even if you're not a writer, like write it out. Start writing out. Go back in time. You know, put on some like nice music. Do some breathing techniques. You know, travel back down memory lane. Not to like trigger yourself, but to start asking yourself some questions. Like, why do I think this way? Where did this come from? Who said this to me? Like, why do I go here? Why do I do this? Like, who am I spending time with? Where am I spending time? Where am I going? Where am I? Like, where are you? Okay, so then you start doing that. Then you start learning to trust God's process. You got to start bringing those things to God. Okay, God, this is what is in me. Now I'm trusting that you are going to help me let it go. And then you've got to continue to trust. You got to continue to pray. You got to continue to be in his word. You got to continue to show up every single day. You have to show up. And then a practical step for forgiving yourself and others. Forgiving yourself is giving yourself grace. Going back to your inner child, going back to your young adult, going back to your teenager, going back to even if it was just last week or yesterday, going back and giving yourself grace, okay? Grace is giving yourself, like, it's okay. Like, pick yourself up, love on yourself, be kind to yourself. And you can even journal that out as well. Like, sit with yourself. know that you would not talk to yourself. If this was your friend, what would you tell your friend? Would you talk to them the way that you talk to yourself in your head? Absolutely not. So don't do it to yourself. And then as far as forgiving others, I've written letters and I've burned them. I've gone to the ocean and I've just journaled or cried it out and just just said their name and told God hey, I gotta let this go. I've done different routes, but I really like the letter part. I've written them a letter, because not always are you gonna get in tune or in touch with the person you need to forgive. This could be somebody who you don't have any connection with. Doesn't mean you can't forgive them. I've continued to pray about it. Some of them haven't been so easy, but continue to be God, soften my heart in this. Help me to let go. Help me to understand why I'm holding on to something. I know there's podcasts, there are books, there are things out there that you can use to get resources. You can talk to a therapist. You can talk to your leaders at church. I've talked to other women. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to do it on your own. So ask for other advice. Ask God to reveal people to you that can help you through that process. But definitely take it seriously and do it. It's an everyday process. It's an everyday of, okay, this is what I got to let go of, and start realizing what you're holding on to is blocking you from what you need to receive. And then embracing new freedom, learning how to be in freedom. Some of us get so trapped, like the Israelites. God freed them from slavery, but their mindset was still they were in freedom and they wanted to go back to slavery. So you got to get it out of you. You have to start realizing what is not good for you and start knowing your worth and knowing you deserve better and trusting that God has you and that He's not going to cause you harm. So when you start walking in these new things, when you start becoming free, you have to renew your mind. So you have to start being around other people that are living that lifestyle, finding other circles. I would say talking to God, okay, God, this is very different for me. I don't really get this. How do I make this work? What does this look like for me? Reading. I love reading. I listen to podcasts. I try to find ways and different tools for me to be okay, embracing something new, that I'm worth it. It all comes back to your worth. You deserve to be respected. You deserve to be free. You deserve to know your worth. You deserve to just be free from bondages. And so there are a lot of ways to do that. And so those are my 5 tips. I've walked it, so I can definitely help. If you would like to know more, definitely DM me. Go to my blog, wordsthatspeak.com. Definitely sign up, get in community with me. But you can do this. And so I hope that this episode has helped one heart, one mind, one body, and one soul from breaking old patterns and walking in freedom with Jesus, because it is so worth it. We live one life, y'all. We get one body, we get one spirit, we have one soul, and we have to take it seriously, because there is so much beauty in this life, but there is so much hardship in this life as well. And it kind of just glides together and weaves itself together, but you have to have an anchor, and you've got to get out of old ways of doing things for new seasons. All right, so I will catch y'all next Saturday, same time, same place. Have a wonderful day. Toodles.